Okay, so I think we're back. I'm just looking for Tom. I think it's saying, let's see. Hi, Juliet. I'm just going to try and find Tom on here, who will jump back in a sec. Where are you, Tom? Okay, in the meantime, there's. Wait a sec. Okay, Tom. So, when you get a second, you might have all crashed where you are. Send a request, and we will jump you back in. In the meantime, I can see Jackie Bosun there. So, I think I might say hi to Jackie, if that's okay, while we wait for Tom to jump back on. Hang on. Thank you, National Theatre, for thanking me for hosting. Jackie, how you doing?
Hi!
Sorry I missed you earlier. I think it sometimes cues people up or something. I'm not sure.
I know, I
How
know.
are you doing?
I'm all right, you know. I'm all right. How are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's wonderful and strange to see this again.
Isn't it?
Um, just looking at the amazing Peter de Jersey giving this great speech.
Yeah. But it's so funny watching it.
Hmm.
It takes you right back in the moment, seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, it was my first Shakespeare ever.
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that, I think. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I was terrified, but you made it so easy for me to understand and just be part of it. It was fantastic.
Oh,
It was
that's
a
great.
fantastic first, you know,
Yeah.
pop my Shakespeare cherry.
Well, I'm very honoured, and I take that kind of thing very seriously, Jackie. So thank you.
Pleasure, pleasure. It was fantastic.
Um, and you got to play a huge range of characters. So
Mm.
you were a Roman soldier. You were also a Roman matron. Not to make you sound matronly, but
No,
you,
no,
yeah,
no.
no, but you played lots of different statuses through it.
Yes.
Really, what was your favourite one to play? Was it the battle?
Oh my God, so much fun. I loved the battle. Just watching that all over again and all that sword fighting work. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was sort of a cross between acting and being a child, mucking about,
Yeah.
playing soldiers in the garden. It was
Yeah,
so
and
much
also
fun.
you're physically, I mean, speaking of someone who is infinitely clumsy, like you're physically so amazing. I think like it was so great to have your contributions trying to create that world.
Yeah, it was my
I was
past,
really
my past,
lucky.
my past life as a professional dancer certainly came in handy. But I
Yeah,
just remember trying to create so many different things with those chairs.
yeah.
Oh,
Everyone was very kind and patient with the chairs.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, there were some hilarious moments. I think
yeah,
someone had like a first night card that were two chairs just kind of sat on top of each other in a kind of chair intimacy.
yes,
Um,
yes,
yeah, yeah. No, it was definitely there's definitely a lot of room for satirizing our own attempts to do it with Paul Chesney
yeah, yeah.
Ladder, but yeah,
It
there
was,
we
yeah,
go.
it was a fantastic experience, and it was so well received, you know,
Yeah,
and so it was great that all of that hard work that we put into it was appreciated, and we were supported in that.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
brilliant. So
Very
thank you for
cool.
having me.
Jackie, it's so good to see you. I'm going to jump off because I was going to see if I could get a hold of Peter de Jersey,
Cool.
just have a quick chat with him. But it's so great to see you. And maybe you'll pop
And
back
you.
on later if you have
Yeah.
any more revelations
Cool. Okay.
about remembering doing this amazing production of Coriolanus.
Thank you.
Lots of
Will do.
love.
Nice to
Take
see
care.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Okay, so let's see if I can find another member of this fantastic cast. Um, doo, doo, doo. Oh, sometimes, sorry, when I'm hitting the ad thing, and sometimes it's just not working. I think possibly because Instagram is so excited. Here we go. Okay, let's see. Tom, if you are around, you can jump back on. Where are you? I'm just gonna sit here for a little bit and see if Tom pops back on. Uh, if Peter de Jersey has put his family to bed, there's also that. For those of you who are watching, this is this amazing scene in the play where he's required Coriolanus to go out and show his wounds. Oh, there's Tom, to the Roman people, basically to ask for votes. It's a much more humiliating equivalent of having to make yourself vulnerable. You know, like when you see politicians. Hey, Tom, I was just talking about this scene in which he's profoundly uncomfortable.
Keep going. Yeah.
You know, I also see that when, for example, like with female politicians, you sometimes, they've stopped doing this now, but they go, really, what you've got to be seen doing is baking. You know, you sometimes see people who've never baked in their life go, I'm going to do something that I'm going to try and make me look authentic, and he resists it in the most profound way, I think.
Yes, what I think is really resonant is you have a leader standing for election to high office, refusing to connect with the people he will be representing. He will be refusing to connect with the people who are going to elect him. He resents and is contemptuous of the practice of asking for people's votes or voices. And
one might even say he has no idea whatsoever as to why he should hold himself to the same account as everybody else. But I shall try and not be too satirical. But, you know, that's a great echo in this play, I think, is about whether or not people consider themselves to be above what everybody else does or has to do.
Yes.
I actually think his exceptionalism runs psychologically very, very deep. So there is more going on than that, I think. But yeah, it's sadly never not a resonant play.
Very sadly, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, people who are sympathetically commenting on my inability to run this efficiently via Instagram Live. I do apologize. It might be like my bad. Yes, art imitates life. Absolutely. I'm really enjoying these comments, and just a quick shout to thank everybody who donated earlier. I didn't get a chance to do that thing where I sort of click and say thank you, but I shall make sure that I find some way to do that and post a proper thanks to you. I know everyone really appreciates it.
We're moving towards a moment in the play where you see this, you see a tension in the middle of the play, right at the beginning of Act 3, I think. You see a tension in Marcius, now named Coriolanus for his military achievements, and that tension is being pushed towards consulship, towards the highest office in this society, in this city.
And we worked out in rehearsals, didn't we, to sort of, it was helpful to manifest that visually. So we created this thing, which is part of the production rather than part of the play, where you're snatching at these red ballots that will then play in the following scene in a really amazing way. But it was quite helpful, I thought, for the clarity to see him literally collecting what you think of as votes.
Yes. It's a play about power. It's a play about power and who gets to wield it and who deserves it. And in the central character, does he have the capacity to wield it? And how power corrupts the mind of the individual who bears the responsibility of it.
What's really great about this scene that's running now is that, and anybody who's listening to us at the same time as watching this, I urge you to go back and watch any of it, but this scene is an amazing study in watching these two extraordinarily sleek and smart politicians, the two tribunes here, flip a crowd.
Yes.
The seed of resentment was already sown by Coriolanus, by Caius Marcius in this scene, but the way that they work them up is really, really extraordinary. And I just thought Elliot and Helen were so brilliant in this.
Yeah.
You know, and they're reasonable, they're right. but it's a great, it's for any of you who are drama students or acting students or anything like that. I mean, you can look at people's work in the whole of this play, but this is a great scene study, actually, how this occurs. I think that's a brilliant Mark Stanley. Yeah. The National Theatre is saying to people that you can donate from the USA in response to their questions, if anyone else is asking that. And some people said, can I switch the comments off? I'm going to keep them if that's okay, because I don't really have time, and partly I'm technically too incompetent to be able to jump to this thing, which I think is questions. Yeah, which is some good stuff here. Like, do you think Caius Marcius did all this just for his mother's approval, which is a question in the play? What's the most terrifying thing about playing this role? So I will try and click those, but you can stick them in the comments as well.
Yeah, can I use that as a jumping off point? I think it's an amazingly psychologically acute question, because I think perhaps in all of us, we would concede that in some way we all want to make our parents proud. And I think in Marcius that need is incredibly intense, because of the very complex attachment he has to his mother. But we are about to get to a place in the play where Marcius's anger and rage and loss of temper and patience and propriety evokes a kind of condemnation from his mother, and his mother tries to persuade him through lots of different kind of rhetorical tactics to get a grip, to be honest. And actually his temper has created a terrifying situation, and his mother now urges temperance, calm, reflection.
Are you ahead of me, because you've not lost it yet?
No,
no, you're about to lose it. Oh, and the ballots flying where you are.
Okay, there you go. So whoever asked that question about does Marcius do this to please his mother, I think the play is asking that question. And in the following scene, there's a quote which I really latched onto the very first time I read it. Volumnia is preaching patience, calm, reflection, healing. That he should go back into the marketplace and be conciliatory and heal these wounds he's created, and be milder. The word is milder, mildly, to behave mildly. And Marcius says, why did you wish me milder? Would you have me false to my nature? Rather say I play the man I am. This relationship in the play about what integrity is, somehow, that the right thing to do would seem to be, if you've created a terrible situation, to go back and make amends. But Marcius's defense is that he was being honest, that he wasn't being false, that to go back would be to lie, and he doesn't, and that would be a kind of offense to his honor.
Can I that's coming up, that scene, and let's just set this up, because it's great if people just keep an eye on the run of this. So a lot of what we did in this staging, actually, we created in the rehearsal room. So in the original play, a lot of this scene, well, the ballots don't exist. You don't see that manifestation of an election being overturned. But what it felt in this very minimal production, with hardly any props at all, was that when objects appeared, they were incredibly significant, and that was a really good bit of storytelling. So you saw the tribunes come on then and fling the ballots out, and what they're doing, because they understand his character, perhaps on a level that even he doesn't. You said brilliantly before, Tom, that he doesn't have this quality of self-reflection, is they're trying to get him to lose his shit. And I was thinking of this again, not to push too much at the.
They know about his character that he will, and they know that it's the part of his character that has I mean, what's the contemporary analogy? The contemporary analogy of great sportsmen who try to light a fire within themselves to overreach in their achievements, to somehow to find the competitive edge that allows them to win that match or to defeat their opponent.
Yeah.
And it's the proximity to extraordinary aggression, which in battle and in warfare, Marsh is able to channel. But the patience and the containment is required in politics, and he is uncontained.
Yeah,
so
it's you can't handle the truth, isn't it? You know, it's a version of that. It's also, to be honest, I've thought about this scene a little bit over the past couple of months, looking at daily briefings and maybe a certain notable moment in the garden of Downing Street, where what you see is, you know, in this instance, correctly, pressure being put onto politicians and political advisors to give an account of themselves, of what they're doing, but there is also a degree of goading going on.
Yes,
I think, and a desire to try and capture something that is unguarded, or something that feels more truthful than what's being said. And this scene is a fantastic manifestation of that. And again, just to praise this company, it was an amazing collective act, poetically as well, in Shakespeare's language, in rhythm, of driving you towards that explosion. And I just want to skip on actually to tee up what you were saying in this scene that we'll see after this with the amazing Deborah Finlay, because I think that's so key, and it was such a revelation for me in rehearsal. I remember finding that moment with both of you through some really good discussion of it. The idea that she asks you to lie, to go back out there and not and dissemble, to not be true to your feelings, to not be straightforward. The way Deborah plays that, your mother has never asked you to do that before. Now she's doing it because she thinks not only your career but your life is at stake, although perhaps for her those are the same thing. And you know, I think again Deb embodied that brilliantly.
Yeah.
And the moment that happens between you when she asks you to tell a lie and to become a politician is really, really amazing. Someone just said in the comments, Tommy, you look sad, are you okay? I actually think you're reacting that moment to answer someone's comment. It's a very profound moment. Yeah.
I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking. It just is a very intense. It's very intense. It's a very intense play, and it was a very intense thing to inhabit.
But those are amazing moments, aren't they? Those moments where we realise, goodness, I hope my mum isn't watching this, that our parents aren't infallible, that our parents might ask us to do something that doesn't run straight along the codes that they've taught us. And they might do that for our own survival, and they might contradict perhaps their own sense of justice, which is what happens, I think, between them in that moment. And I remember that so vividly, because I remember that revelation rehearsal. And that's for me, one of the great moments I had as a director, which is discussing that, working it, finding it, and doing it, which you can't always get to happen at the same time.
Also, this is something very profound about any of our lives, which is a great change is possible when you realize that you have to take responsibility for who you are and what you do. That actually it starts, so that if to use myself as an example, my behavior starts with me. My actions, my responses, my opinions, my views, it's on me. I can't point the finger at other people, at my, there's an amazing line, I don't know where it started, but we all possess within us a very profound power, which is the power of how we respond. We're not responsible for the things that happen to us, but we are responsible for how we respond. And I don't think Marcius has quite appreciated that in his journey yet. Can I say something about I'm watching a scene. I don't know where everybody else is in watching it now, but this I think is an extremely resonant moment, which is quite disturbing. Which is that Marcius has been elected to the highest office in this society, and he is threatening to use the military force at his disposal against his own people.
Yeah.
And it's very, very troubling.
It's very troubling. He's just been put in charge of everyone, and he's pulled out his sword on the floor of the Senate.
Yes.
And that sword is not just, I think, him threatening his personal physical power, but it's a total deal break for the moment. And you can see Peter de Josie there, where I'm in my feed, is Cominius, try and calm him down, because, you know, that sword's got the military behind it. I think the extension of that arm has
Yes.
an exceptional muscle, and everybody, it goes very high, and everyone's very aware of what's just occurred.
Yeah, the stakes go very high, which is why the tribunes brand him a traitor and an enemy of the people.
Yeah.
That, I think it's Cecilia Helen Schlesinger, as the Tribune, begins to articulate what that is, which is that he has elevated himself to a power tyrannical.
Yeah. Can I just briefly shout out for all the actors clearing up paper off the floor at this point, while a small boy runs around, just because, you know, you come up with these moments and then you have to ask the acting company to go and pick up 200 ballots. So sorry, Tom, to interrupt you, but I do feel a great wave of guilt asking actors to do a really boring scene change.
It's created to buy and sell.
I'm just trying to. This is the scene now. We're up to the scene, aren't we?
Yeah, someone's saying, could I explain the significance of the young boy with the sword? The young boy with the sword plays Caius Marcius's, Coriolanus's son through the production, but you see him, I mean, on a very real level. I've got to do something while people pick up ballots, but I think he serves just poetically as a little reminder of this mother and son relationship, and of Caius Marcius's childhood, really, which was so deeply formative, because there's no father present in this play.
Yes, we talked about that a lot, didn't we?
Yeah.
Good point. I often thought about that.
Someone's just said, what's your favourite scene? It might be this one, possibly, but yeah.
Well, it's a theme. It's the theme of the relationship between mother and son that runs between the play. But you raised a great point, which is worth considering. My opinion, for what it's worth, which is a deeply untested, unacademic amateur one, is that I think if you were to draw a comparison between the number of times Shakespeare examines relationships between fathers and sons in his plays, or parents and children, more often you will find a father involved. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of examples. I'm thinking of, I immediately think of Hamlet and the absent father and the ghost of the father. I think of King Lear, which is a father and three daughters, and then also Gloucester, Edmund and Edgar. Henry IV, which is King Henry IV and Prince Hal.
Mm-hmm.
And what the presence of a father does to the child, what Lear does to Cordelia and Goneril and Regan.
Someone's saying, as you like it, 12 points, yeah.
As you like it.
Yeah.
Celine and Imogen.
Angela Carter says, why is Shakespeare always about fathers and daughters and never mothers and daughters? That's mothers and daughters actually is what he doesn't write. Just to be briefly academic
Yes.
about it.
But if from memory, apart from Gertrude and Hamlet, this relationship here is the most explored.
For me, yeah, this is the great mother-son relationship. But
I played Hamlet after this.
Yeah.
In a I guess it was 3 years after this, and Lalita Chakrabarti played Gertrude, and we talked at length during the process of rehearsing and performing that play anyone who knows Hamlet knows there is an extraordinary scene in the middle of that play where Hamlet rounds on Gertrude, his mother, for marrying his uncle, and so much of his grievance is about the speed with which his mother moved on from his father to his uncle, and how could you have moved from this extraordinary man to this imitation of man, this poor imitation of a man. And we, long story short, Lolita and I talked at length about how Shakespeare doesn't give Gertrude much to say in her own defense.
No.
She doesn't get to sort of represent her interests. She never gets to say, look, it was quite complicated, and can I talk to you about it?
No, it's pretty tough for me, actually. Yeah.
She mostly has to... she's written as someone who is very shocked by the strength of his rage, and very disturbed by Hamlet's haunting. She doesn't see the ghost, but she's very disturbed psychologically disturbed by the scene, but she doesn't get to articulate much apart from her own shock. And I often thought of this relationship between Volumnia.
There's that look we were talking about. Sorry, it's just got to the amazing bit with you and Deborah. And also just in the staging there, just those three, parents, all to an extent. He doesn't have a father, but he has these two father figures, just all looking at him and bearing down on him with the weight of their love for him. Sorry, Tom, I interrupted you mid-flow there.
No, that's a good point. Menenius is referred to as his uncle. Mm-hmm. We don't know whether that's a kind of, he's an uncle figure, an avuncular presence, or he's actually an uncle by blood. And then Cominius, played by Peter Josie, is a father figure in terms of being a military superior. Yeah. Cominius in the play has been a Roman general, and he has also been a consul, and a successful one in both roles. And I suppose is somebody who Marcius would respect.
There's, in this scene as well that's happening, what you see brilliantly is a flare of your mother's temper, in terms of where does he get it from.
Well,
there you go.
She says, thy valiantness was mine, thou suck'st it from me, but oh, thy pride thyself. He's she's the only one who can influence him. Which is why I think psychologically it's such a fascinating relationship to play. Yeah.
Well, it's just watching you go, okay, thank you. Yep, got that. Cool.
Yes.
Great. Yes, someone just said here the wince when you yield is great. Really great.
Mildly, you see the resentment. It's so curious. There is the strength of his resentment at doing something he doesn't believe in.
Yeah. Someone's just said, can we explain the difference between consul and tribune? And that's a brilliant question, I think, in terms of the different versions of politicians and political classes in the play. So the tribunes, you could say self-styled, or a version of elected, are the voices of the people. In some other productions of Coriolanus, they're sometimes played as um, union leaders or representatives of working bodies. They'd probably be the closest to uh, members of parliament, or if you're watching from another country, state representatives. So they carry with them the authority of representing the people. The consuls are exclusively, in this version of Rome, I say elected. The vote is not necessarily of the people, is not necessarily what you need to be made consul. You're made consul by your peers, by the Senate, but you need the voices of the people to be able to do it. So the consuls are the ruling class, they're the privileged. They often come from the warriors. They will have been, as Volumnia has with Caius Marcius, which is Coriolanus's name before he sacks the city of Coriolis and is given the name as a tribute and an honor. They're raised into those roles, and there's an expectation. You might say, we know, don't we, that our current Prime Minister, I think, said when he was very, very young that he was going to be Prime Minister. Now, that's not exclusive to someone of Boris Johnson's background, which is a privileged background, but there is a sense that there is a privileged class who are shown the routes to attaining a consulship. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because we've got a kind of a Jenga tower of historical references. We're interpreting Shakespeare, who is fashioning his understanding of Roman history through Elizabethan politics, and he's leaning on either secondary sources or he's leaning on the Roman historian Livy or the Greek historian Plutarch, who wrote these lives of these ancient figures.
Check out Livy and Plutarch, everybody, if you want to go deeper into Coriolanus.
And talking really about, talking about a figure who may or may not have existed 2,500 years ago, when Rome was not an empire. It was a young, early republic, a young society trying to organize itself. And
really great point is that Britain had not been a democracy when Shakespeare wrote this play.
It was still a monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, and Rome itself has a curious history, because after this, the Republic became more sophisticated, I think, and this is a slightly nerdy classical aside, but Romans became very frightened of tyrants. Autocracy was deemed as a very bad thing, that one individual could held sway in power absolute, and something closer to a republic, which was a kind of equality distributed among the people, but with a governing body who were deemed responsible enough to make important decisions. And then, as we see in Julius Caesar, people get competitive about who holds most sway. And after Julius Caesar's time, you have the first Roman emperor, and then you're in an empire with an emperor for 300 years, 300 odd, until Constantine.
Tom, I'm going to pause you for 1 second so we can just reflect on what's going on this scene.
Yes.
Because it's so great. Not that I am not keen that you walk us through Roman history.
I finished.
It's good. Because actually someone just asked on the questions how you break down a play like this, and one of the ways in which you do it is by jumping into that Roman history and working out not only the context in which Shakespeare was writing, but also the period he was writing about. That was very much part of our process. But where you're heading, I think, with all of that research is to a distillation where you just wind up with you stood in a black square that's just been painted to be tried in public. And what Helen Sessinger is doing brilliantly here is working up the crowd that is the audience of the Donmar Warehouse.
Yes.
So as you know, we've got a really small company, and brilliantly, you know, the actors are in amongst the audience at this point, pushing it forward. There's Peter Josie pleading for what actually converts from being your consulship to your life, I think, at this point.
This is the turning point where the people banish the tyrant from the city.
Yeah.
And what follows is a piece of poetry by Shakespeare, which is one of the most contemptuous, bilious, aggressive pieces of poetry I've ever come across.
Someone just said on the YouTube comments, "Oh my God, this is my school." And actually, I think there is a thing where, here we go, you're being bullied till you break.
It's the breaking point.
Yeah. Great. I banish you. He just cancelled Rome.
Having been cancelled by Rome.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do societies control the power of tyrants? Question mark. Discuss.
Yeah.
This line that's coming up, one of the most famous lines in the play. There is a world elsewhere. And there's something else about Marcius Coriolanus, which I want to just briefly touch on, which is his stubbornness, obstinacy, intransigence, and warlike nature are all bound up in his self-created isolation. He's one of the most lonely or alone characters in Shakespeare that I can think of. Yeah. And he continues to make himself alone. He uses that first person pronoun, I, so much. Yeah. I banish you.
One of the amazing things I was going to say about having the actors on stage for the first half is that he can go, there's a world elsewhere. Michael can just write this really brief piece of music, which is just enough for Deborah to step forward and your mother can be there. Yeah. And what's brilliant is about the proximity of action to consequence when you're doing a production on this scale.
Yeah.
You know, this amazing cry, chilling cry that's just when she realizes the consequence of what you've done. You know, so extraordinary. And I think there's something in your performance there, Tom, as you're right, he doesn't have a lot of room for self-reflection, but he knows what he's doing at the end of that scene. In your performance here, it doesn't come out of heat. He might not understand what's going to happen to him, but he makes the choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Born out of, I don't know what, born out of some extraordinary, almost unnatural degree of self-determination.
He just can't bear it anymore, can he? I'm sort of, I'm being silly when I say he cancels Rome, but he sort of cancels himself as well. And I think in the second act, you see that in where he goes.
Yes. Well, and to simplify it, somebody told me when we first committed to doing this together, that you can reduce the tragic flaws of his great tragic plays, of Shakespeare's great tragic plays, to almost one word. With Hamlet, it's grief. With Othello, it's jealousy. With Lear, it's, what would you say, madness, or
No, I don't know. I'm going to ask Rob Hasty that later. He'll be well equipped to answer that question, but I don't think it is.
I'm thinking about the tragedies now.
Safety, I think, probably to an extent in Lear. But what is it with Coriolanus then?
Pride. Pride in the ancient sense. Not like, oh, I'm really proud of a friend for achieving that thing they're always supposed to achieve, but pride meaning a degree of entitlement that is enlarged and amplified within you, which creates an impenetrable sense of superiority.
Yeah.
That's Martus's downfall, is pride. A lack, I suppose pride is the opposite of humility.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yes, I would. I think for me, it's also a play about anger as this terrifying force, as a force for destruction, as a force for change, how new worlds are created and broken, how it corrodes the self. You know, the amazing thing about this relationship with this son and his mother is that when you get right down to it, there is a rage there that possesses both of them.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I was always very interested. Look, we think it's late among Shakespeare's tragedies, and I mean, he lived to a relatively ripe old age for the century he was living in, but you know, it's toward the end of his career as a playwright, and I do think also there's a sort of what he's done is put some of his professional impatience. You know, I sometimes think, wow, that must be 20 years of just getting nonsense notes on your plays from people, you know, 20 years of people going, you know what would be really great is if you changed that bit. I mean, Tom Stoppard plays with that hilariously. Oh, hang on, wait, we're at the tomatoes. So we've got to talk about tomatoes.
Okay, well,
and it's the interval, but let's take us into the interval by talking about tomatoes, Tom.
Okay, we wanted to close with an image of humiliation, I think, and you know, what does it mean to have been Rome's greatest champion,
mm-hmm.
and then to have the entire city, ostracize you, and what does that look like?
I'm just going to interrupt you there. I was just going to talk about poaching tomatoes so they didn't hurt your face.
Yes, well, so I can't remember how I was going to. How do we decide to do?
Thank you for the tomato emoji, people in the comments. I think we definitely experimented with lots of different types of soft fruit. Just pointing out tomato as a fruit there. Just people are impressed by my broad base of knowledge of organic foods. But yeah, we settled on tomatoes. We tried it with some stuff. We did need to cook them a little bit so that they didn't attack you.
Technical rehearsal, because it's important. Let's say it's important that these tomatoes are thrown with some force and velocity,
and aim.
And I was like, oh, that felt more like a rock than a tomato.
Yeah. Wasn't poached enough. Don't know. It's just.
So we decided to poach them so that in order that when they hit me, they sort of they sort of splattered in a appropriately humiliating way.
Yeah.
They weren't too hard, because you know, sometimes on a 2-show day, because we did matinees and evening performances sometimes back to back, I thought, I don't know if those tomatoes aren't soft, I don't know how I'm going to feel about myself in the interval.
Yeah.
However, there were always, I mean, maybe this is true of all theatre companies, there were backstage always, every night, astonishing reserves of cake and supplies.
It's a lot of cake. Talking of which, I'm just going to find my corkscrew, just because I'm going to have some wine, because it was the interval.
Thursday,
there we go.
Yeah. 9:30.
Yeah. It's quite. What time is it where you are?
3:30.
3:30. So you can't have any wine. Sorry, you were talking about cake. Yes. Can I just make a suggestion? I'm just thinking. No, I think I get a warning when I'm running out of Instagram Live. So maybe we'll just leave it until then. I was going to jump out at the interval, but I got distracted with tomatoes. So, and opening my own wine, frankly. Wow, look at this. We've raised a further £1,700 and 59 pence.
Amazing.
You people are absolutely amazing. And people are also donating directly via YouTube. And that's so great. Thank you.
Thank
We
you,
really
everybody.
appreciate that.
It means a lot. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the theatre community in the UK. I'll just say briefly, I was so honoured that the National Theatre wanted to come to the Donmar and broadcast this production, because I think at that time the National Theatre Live broadcasts were almost always productions which were staged inside the National Theatre building. And I remember when you said, like, I think we might be able to do a broadcast of this, and it's just such a we were all so grateful that we were able to, that this production could be seen beyond the confines of the very small theatre we were performing in.
Yeah.
And it just is, it is a part of the tradition of live performance in the UK, and I know it's something that you and I are proud of.
Really proud.
And
not in a Coriolanus way, though.
Not in a Coriolanus way. We're grateful that we're allowed to be part of that community. I think
Yeah.
British theatre is something that has been world class for a very long time, and was long before I was even around or interested in joining it.
And I think it's probably true to say, I mean, I know there are many roles that you're famous for, but you would not be Loki were it not for theatre.
Yes, I started my life in the theatre for 100%. I started my acting life with Shakespeare. Shakespeare is, for many, not all. I understand it's not everyone's beginnings or necessarily their cup of tea, but for many actors, grounding in Shakespeare is is a sort of entry point, not just in the UK but all over the world. We're to your point about the enormous generosity of these donations.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you sincerely from us. It means a great deal.
Yeah, it means absolutely loads. And look, there are lots of very, very worthy places and causes at the moment, but I think for you and me to be able to get on here and talk about this thing that we love and value so much and owe so much to, and have you support that's really great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think I am going to see if Hadley Fraser is there.
I think it's a very wise moment. Because
You should get a cup of tea. I'm going to try and find Hadley Fraser. If I can't find Hadley Fraser, it will be me talking. So come back and rescue everyone from me, Tom. But let's see if Hadley's there.
I will see you
Thanks,
shortly.
love. Cool. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thanks, everyone. I'm going to just see if I can see running out of battery, so that's going to be another technical problem. Now I'm just going to reassure you that I am hitting the add people button and it just sometimes doesn't work. Hang on, I wonder if I'm going to try clicking over to your comments so I can grab a question that I can try and answer. Someone's like, well, I try and let Hadley in. Someone is asking me if I have any tips. Oh, there he is. We can ask Hadley this as well. Any tips to overcome nerves as a drama student? Waiting for Hadley Fraser. Any news on City of Angels coming back? We will try and answer that as well. We would love it if it came back. We don't really have any news yet. There is still uncertainty about when the theatres might reopen and if we can get it all back together again, but we are all hoping very hard that that is the case. It still says waiting for Hadley Fraser. Yeah. I can charge my phone while live. Thank you. I think I have to flip the orientation of it, but that is fine. Okay. It's not letting you in, Hadley Fraser. I'm not taking that personally. I'm going to cancel the request and try it again. Hang on. Cancel. Let's try that again. Okay, let's see. There you are. Okay, another go at this. Adding Hadley Fraser. Waiting for Hadley Fraser. And he's normally so punctual. Ooh, okay. Maybe if I plug my phone in. Sorry. This is terrible technology. Yeah, and I'm now reading your... Oh, connecting. Hadley Fraser.
I'm here. Hello.
Hi. I'm going to try and work out a way to stack these things. Nice background. Look at that. There's a plank going on. You've got your spectacles on. Yeah, what's that big map?
An old map of London.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
How's
cool.
it going? Have you been... How's the sort of watch-along?
The watch-along is good. Yeah, it was good. Tom is being fantastic. Sorry, I'm like, does it look in your thing like I'm a different orientation from you?
What if I do that?
Okay, you could do that, yeah, that's better. But is that then weird for everybody else? Does everyone then do that with their phone and I read comments that way? We're going to have to live like this for a while, everybody. I'm sorry. Yeah. I probably should just like switch my...
Oh.
With battery. God knows what that just did. I'm really sorry. I'm rubbish. Hadley,
Hello.
was it like being in this production?
What was it like? Do you know, I've only just started watching actually, and
Did you watch
I'm not one who...
Have you ever seen it? Oh, here you are.
No, never. No, and I'm not particularly one to watch myself, so it was quite an odd experience. And to be honest with you, as soon as I finish a production, I pretty much sort of consign it to the emotional and memory dustbin. And so it's been quite nice just to sort of key in with this again. There's lots of things I've forgotten, like all the painting on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, the sort of basketball courtness of it. I'd forgotten all of that. I'd forgotten just quite how close proximity it felt that we were with the audience. And being as someone who's sort of acted at the Donmar a good few times, you know, it's brought home actually when you see it from this, just how close everybody is, and I miss that desperately.
Proximity, yeah. I mean,
the proximity thing, yeah.
Someone's saying it's good even if it's sideways, which is great. I'm trying to read these. Yeah.
Josie, you're sideways.
I mean, to be honest, I get that a lot. Could you guys talk a bit about the set? Do I get secondhand embarrassment through watching myself? Yes, I'm actively embarrassed, but I'm trying to raise money for the Donmar House. Yes, I'm experiencing shame. Thank you. Someone's saying I'm from Yorkshire. More shame. I'm from Lancashire. Well, I'm not even from Lancashire, actually.
I'd also forgotten that I did a Leeds accent as Dilys Assidious. That had gone.
Forgotten that. Did we have to repaint the floor every night? Oh my God. So, right, we had to make that poor child, there were two of them, run around with a paintbrush, and we'd sort of mark him out of 10 for whether or not he made the corners too wet. One of the corners got too wet on this live, so it's a bit splodgy. No christening for that child, who's probably now 19. I don't know, but
17,
that was an issue. We had fun painting. Do you remember rehearsing that random disused building?
Yes, I do, with rats in it. Yeah, that felt very Shakespearean. You are going to hurt your neck. Like
no, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm doing a lot of yoga in lockdown. It's fine.
So that's all right then.
Yes. Someone is saying, will all the donations be shared between the Donmar and the National? Yes. Josie, mind your neck. Yes. Okay. I'll do that.
They'll be shared with the Donmar, the National, and Josie Chiropractor.
Josie, you can change your orientation without physically moving your phone. I know, but I can't plug it in. Oh, what if I did it upside down? Hang on. Oh God, this is just going to go wrong, Cabs. No, it's now just completely upside. That's just now you're. I mean,
there's something quite nice about that, though, Josie.
Quite relaxing. It's like my head's your head. Yeah, that's.
I bet you did about also.
No,
sorts
okay,
of
I'm
sort of
going to stop
very
moving the phone. Thank you, everyone, for your help. There's Al Kumar on there just pissing himself because I'm so shit. I'm going to hurt myself. Yeah. Sorry, Hadley. This should be about you and your role in this production. Oh, Josie.
I don't remember any of it, Jose. This is fun. This is so much more fun. Let's not talk about Coriolanus.
So I'm going to do my confession with this, which is, so Hadley and I just rehearsed City of Angels together, having done it like 6 years previously, 5 years previously. And I did this thing because there were actors in the production who'd not been in it before, where I didn't want people to feel like they were being like dropped into something that already existed. So very stubbornly, I didn't watch the video that we had of the previous production. Before anyone asks, it's not high enough quality to put it out there. It's like a kind of grainy, weird thing. But if you can remember it, it's good. Our brilliant associate director, Jordan, would like sometimes watch it. And you remember, sadly, I'd be like struggling in rehearsal to sort of solve a moment. And Jordan would just really quietly come over and go, just to remind you, when you last did this, you did this.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, that's brilliant.
It was good, wasn't it? Yeah, we'd have a sort of collective.
Honestly,
oh yeah, that was really good.
Running around with the paint at the beginning, I was like, oh yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I know that, and yeah, I mean, it's. I'm just watching it now. I've got it on the laptop right now. Tom and me are going in for the kiss any moment. This is going to be. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, wait, have you kissed him yet?
In fact, it's coming up now. Right. The beard. I wonder what it was like kissing the beard. I hope it was all right. There it is. Look.
When Tom comes back on, he's going to answer that question.
Okay. Can we do 3 people on this at the same time?
We can't.
Is that,
we
no,
can't.
or is it just it's a doubler?
But no, it's just.
Okay. Yeah. Ask him what it was like kissing the beard.
Or just kissing you. Or we could ask Rosie. Where's Rosie? We could get Rosie and she'll tell us. Rosie, to be clear,
she's in the next room.
Not someone we're keeping in another room to talk about kissing experiences.
Yeah. I remember. I do remember this scene actually, obviously, because I was in this scene. But I mean, there's some incredible scenes at the end of Act 1 that I just watched. I'd forgotten just how majestic Deborah Findlay is at the end of Act 1, as she says Thomas, and you a-hole. Oh yeah, Rosie's just saying I can hear you.
You can come in. Come in,
I think
Rosie.
she's in her pajamas, if I'm honest.
She's in her pajamas.
I think she's in her pajamas.
I mean, everybody wants to see that, but no. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some incredible performances in this. I caught a picture of Dwayne Walcott just being absolutely legendary.
Brilliant. Look at him in the background there, just observing this. I mean, to be briefly serious. Oh, someone's saying time out soon. Yeah. To be briefly serious. There is something about the intensity of this kinship, and then, without a massive spoiler, a betrayal that's about to occur between the two of them that really powers the second half of this play. You know, and in Shakespeare's dramaturgy, the incredible shock that he goes, there's a world elsewhere, and it turns out that world is his enemy's house. You know.
Yeah. It's incredible. I remember us talking about the sort of spiral of action in this play, and how, especially for Tullus Ophidius and Caius Marcius, it sort of starts with that incredible fight.
Yeah.
And it sort of it acts like a whirlpool and draws everybody else in, and you know, not that I'm saying yes, mine and Tom's characters are the most important, but it feels like there's this kind of this constant revolution around that fight.
Yeah.
And they come back. I'm sure you and Tom talked about that quite a bit. But
I think also that to be matched by somebody. I mean, you know, I think I see this as when I work with you on a musical. There's a thing about musicianship, right? So you definitely see actors sort of measure each other in the rehearsal room and give respect and go, you know, the return of serve on this is going to be amazing, just to pick a tennis analogy, never having played tennis. But, you know, that you can see actors meet and know that something fantastic is going to happen. When music is involved, speaking as a not particularly musical person, you know, what I see is you and other people in a show like City of Angels, who really understand music and musicality, just do this thing that goes, yeah, there's someone, not in a vain way, who's like at a level of musicianship that is extraordinary. Like the way that band powered everyone forward in City of Angels, you know, was amazing. And